Welcome back to the UNOPS seminar on sustainable project management. Our next presenter is Dokter. Luke is Australian and he's working for Engineers Without Borders in Norway. Luke, he's an environmental engineer who has worked in over 20 countries with issues related to water and sanitation, as well as disaster preparedness and response. He'll be speaking today of the challenge of preparing the next generation of project managers. Luke, please join us.
Thanks very much. Can everybody hear me now? Yep. First of all, I'd just like to thank UNOPS and especially Ricardo and Jan and Marianne for arranging and having us here. I feel quite humbled that such a small organisation as ours is allowed to come and present at this fantastic facility in Copenhagen. I'm here together with a board member of Engineers Without Borders Norway, Anna Bergener, and she is my technical support. So if you have any project management questions, I'll direct them to her. She works for Holte Consultings, which is a big project management firm in Norway. Before I begin, I'd just like to challenge you all and have a little bit of a survey. You've probably all got coffee in your hand right now. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I want people to stand up to answer those questions. It helps me get an idea of who I'm talking to. So first of all, who here works for the UN? If you can stand up, please. Okay, it's just under 50% of the room. Who here is a professional? Okay. So that's quite positive. There's a lot of people here from outside this building. Who here is a student? Okay. Who here is retired, actually? Retired? No? Okay. Out of all of you people here, how many are engineers, actually? All right, so that's actually less than I'd have thought, to be honest. Out of all of the students, or out of all of the professionals, who here has experience within the development or the humanitarian sector? Okay, so all of you sit down. I want everyone else to stand up that didn't stand up just now. Okay, so out of all of you people, who here wants or has a desire to get experience within the humanitarian or development sector? Sit down if you don't want to, stay up if you do want to. Okay, so it's quite a large proportion of the group here. And I think this is what I'm going to talk about today. When I was challenged to come here and present on sustainable project management, I have to be honest, I didn't really know what sustainable project management was. I had to think about it a little bit. I know what project management is, but I had to work out what sustainable project management is. Quickly, Engineers Without Borders, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of us, or I'm hoping a lot of people have heard of us, but we're quite a diverse organisation globally. There's no central committee that guides or makes regulations or develops policies for Engineers Without Borders, but we're quite big. It started in France in the 1980s, and then in Spain and Southern Europe in the 1990s, and then US, Canada, England and so forth. And Norway, we're one of the newest members. We only started in 2011. It started at NTNU, which is the big engineering university in Norway. It was an initiative taken by a group of students there that thought, why don't we have Engineers Without Borders in Norway? I heard about this. At that time I was working in an NGO, and it was also something that I was thinking about, why doesn't Engineers Without Borders exist in Norway, one of the largest engineering communities or countries in the world? So in 2 years we've grown to 600, I don't know, it goes 20 new members every week, so 600 plus members. We have 6 chapters around the country, and again we're only 2 years old, so there's a huge potential here. So that was about us. I had to think a little bit about where a good project manager comes from. So for me that involves a relevant university degree. I'm an engineer myself. Engineers by nature, I feel, often get thrown into a project management role because it's the type of people they are. They're structured, they like systems, they like to make budgets and do all of those types of things. And all engineering degrees have some form of project management course in them. You need practical experience. You can't go to university and come out the other end as a professional project manager. It's too complex, there's too many aspects involved for you to be able to take a degree and be a professional project manager. And thirdly, you need some sort of specialised training. I've heard them all, PMI, PRISM 2, all of these extra things. I've personally done the project management and people management courses with Red R, for example. So you go from a university degree, you have some practical experience, and then you do some specialised training, and that's where you get a project manager from. But what about a sustainable project manager? For me, there's a lot more involved there than just what you learn here. If we look at what competencies you probably develop while you're at university or getting practical experience or doing your specialised training, there's a whole plethora of different skills and competencies and attributes that you need to be a good project manager. To be a good sustainable project manager, I think you actually need quite a little bit more. And this is where the complexity comes in. At the end of the day, I think you need to be, well, the way I see it, you need to be Superman to be able to achieve everything as a project manager and ensure that your projects are sustainable at the end of the day too. I'm not sure all of these are right, but this is what I'm presenting. When I look at the green text, what I see here is quite a lot of what I would call out of the sustainability triangle. Sorry, wait, I'm going back one, is the social aspect. There's always a risk when you have animations that things are going to go wrong. So, to get from a project manager to a good sustainable project manager. Engineers Without Borders Norway, we work a lot at the university level and a lot with people that don't have experience in this. Now, some of the challenges for the next generation that are coming through, the students that are in this room, the people who have just begun their professional careers, is that first of all, and especially as an engineer, you actually want to be good at what you do before you go on and become a project manager in the projects that you're trying to deliver. You want to be able to talk with the engineers, you want to be able to talk with the technicians and understand what they're saying, and you want to be able to give your input. You don't just want to be the project manager. So first of all, you need to work a couple of years and actually develop this skill. The second is because you don't have very much experience and you don't have very many skills, you often get excluded from groups where you probably could develop those skills and experiences. Or you get excluded from projects, or you get put on tasks where you don't get involved. And the third one is that quite often, or more often than not, you'll get thrown into a situation where you actually haven't developed the right skills and competencies to perform well. So these are some of the challenges that we see for younger engineers, younger project managers coming out of university and who are now in the workplace. So if I go back to this diagram here, and what Engineers Without Borders Norway, and I think what Engineers Without Borders globally is also working towards, is taking skilled engineers, skilled project managers, and focusing not so much on the grey text, but more so on the green text. And when I look at most of those aspects there, and I compare it to our nice little sustainability matrix, where we have the social, environmental, and economic, where I really see our role is in the social aspect. Engineers come out of university, they go to work, they have generally a good understanding of the economic and the environmental aspects. What often lacks in an engineering degree or working within an engineering consultancy in Norway is the social side of things. Now you can take Norway and you can consider the social aspects there. You take a Norwegian engineer or an engineer from any other Northern European, American or country and throw them into a development situation or a humanitarian situation, and the social aspects are extremely different. And I think Jill has referred to this in terms of the project planning and that she presented before, and Henrik has also referred to this as well. It's local capacities, it's the people, it's the communities, it's understanding how those components function to ensure that you can actually run, create, and deliver a sustainable project. I've got proof of this, and it's a statement that I found, that social sustainability is the least defined and least understood of the 3 pillars of sustainability. And that comes from a very, very reputable source on the internet. But it states that, and I'd have to agree with it. I'm an engineer myself. I graduated, I went and worked in a consulting company. I did that for a few years, and then I took a year's break and went and worked in Vietnam for an NGO. Thought I was only going to come back and start working in the consultancy again, but actually discovered that what I was doing in the field there was a lot more giving to myself and a lot more challenging than what I was actually doing back in Australia. And it was actually a lot of the social things that were the most challenging. It wasn't the technical side. It wasn't building rainwater harvesting tanks for villages. It wasn't designing water distribution nets in small towns. It was actually ensuring that you could make it work with the community and with the structures and with the government that were there. So what are we doing? Engineers Without Borders Norway, and how are we aiming to work on these topics? First of all, we're trying to change the engineering degree in Norway. This is actually a cut and paste from a civil engineering degree at the largest engineering university in Norway. The 2 little green boxes are the little green boxes where you have a potential to actually choose a subject that doesn't have to do with engineering or the technical side of engineering. But that doesn't mean that you actually have to choose a non-technical subject within those 2 boxes. So for me, there's a problem here that you're producing engineers, and engineers need to be good at what they do. They need to be good, they need to be technicians, they need to understand the basics. But in the world we're living in today, they also need to have a much broader understanding of the problems and the issues that they're going out to work on. So we in Engineers Without Borders Norway, we're trying to make the degree look a little bit more like this. That there's a lot more opportunity to focus on and look at problems that aren't purely technical and aren't going to ensure that you end up in the oil and gas sector once you're finished. If you end up there, that's fine and good. But if you do end up there, we'd like you to also have a little bit more of the social, non-technical aspects also. So we have a program called the Meaningful Masters, where our student chapters locate and identify projects where master students can then write their thesis on a concrete project that's related to a development problem with a partner organisation in the field, which often results in field work where that student goes out and collects data and works together with the local community and works together with the local organisation, and then they deliver their thesis on this. The third way is giving the right practical experience. Out of all of you young people here, and out of all of the professionals that don't have any humanitarian or development experience, I'll guarantee you, and I guess you've all found it, it's very difficult to get experience within the humanitarian and development sector if you haven't already been in the sector, and it's very difficult to get experience if you can't get into the sector because you don't have the experience to get in. In Australia, you have some systems, for example, the Youth Ambassador for Development program, Volunteers International. In the UK, you have Volunteers Abroad. In the US, you have Peace Corps. In Norway, nothing like that exists. You have the Norwegian Peace Corps, but that's much more focused on South-South and North-South exchanges. So there doesn't exist a possibility for you to actually go out and get experience unless you actually go and do it yourself. You can go and volunteer for an organisation, or you can apply for a job at UNOPS, and I'm assuming UNOPS gets probably hundreds and hundreds of applications from people that would really like to work with UNOPS, but possibly don't have the right, they probably have the right skills, but they possibly don't have the right experience. So we're working to give engineers the right experience, and we do that by, first of all, mentoring. Through all of our projects that we do, which are one-off type of consulting projects, we always send an experienced engineer out with a young, inexperienced engineer, where the goal is that the experienced engineer is to learn from the partner organisation, but also the experienced engineer is there to provide a service. But the inexperienced engineer, he's not inexperienced technically, but in the field, is actually there to learn from him. So it's the people, our members, these 700 people, finding who have the experience, finding who don't have the experience, but want to develop that experience, and pairing them together. The third way is through specialised training, and this is similar to what RED-R does, and I'm sure similar to what UNOPS does and many other agencies, but providing a forum and a place in Norway where people can develop these skills and experience and knowledge that they need before they actually travel out and work in another context. We're not an organisation that has our own projects. We have no ambition to have or implement our own projects in the field. We have an ambition to build experience so that our members can eventually get a job in UNOPS, the Red Cross, an NGO, another UN organisation, or in Norway in a consulting firm. So that's how we work. To summarise, I'm going to steal something from EWB or Engineers Without Borders in Australia, because I think it puts what we're doing into a nice package. The first step that we as an organisation want to achieve is to make people conscious about a problem. We all know it, we're all living it, the challenges associated with climate change, the challenges associated with overpopulation, with pollution, with energy. These are big problems. And these are not problems that politicians are going to solve in meetings in Poland. That's where the framework's going to be developed, but these are problems that technical engineers are going to solve at the end of the day. But before I can get all of these engineers to work on those problems, because I'm in Norway, Norway's a little bubble. It's a fantastic place to live, but you're isolated from the rest of the world. You in reality don't have the daily problems that the other 99% of the world's population face. So we need to make Norwegian engineers conscious about these problems. Once they're conscious, they can become concerned. Once you're concerned about an issue, once you really feel like, yes, I can make a change, or that, yes, I need to make a change, I need to use my skills to make that change, then you can actually start being concerned. And once people become concerned, then they can actually start to take steps to actually do something about it. Before they can go and take the step to do something about it, before you can travel out and start working in another country, with another project, in a situation where people are perhaps more disadvantaged than those in Norway, you actually need to comprehend how you are going to make a change and how you're going to make a sustainable change. I don't want to, and I don't think we should, ever throw a Norwegian engineer out who has an education from Norway, has always worked in Norway, to a problem, for example, building an unpaved road in a community, and expect that person, because he has the technical knowledge, to make it successful. It's not going to happen. We've seen it done, it doesn't work. We need to make sure that the person that's going out there comprehends what we've been talking about earlier today, the sustainability, the social aspects, how is this going to function, how is the community involved, how is the government involved, and how are things going to function once that person has left. So it's only after they start to comprehend that we can actually challenge them to take action and start working with these problems. So consciousness, or building a consciousness around a problem, making people concerned, helping them comprehend how they can make a change themselves, how they are actually going to contribute, and then challenging them to actually contribute. All the Engineers Without Borders in the world that exist all work in a little bit different way, but from what I've seen and my experience in talking to the different chapters and the different organisations, all work similar to this. All are concerned engineers who want to understand how to make a better change in the world. But then there's the reality. I live in Norway, I'm an Australian, I speak Norwegian, I've lived there for a number of years and so forth. There's not an overflowing number of engineers that want to do this at the end of the day. A Norwegian engineer 98% of them have a job before they actually finish university. Okay? So the situation today in Norway, the market for engineers is so good that it doesn't matter what character, what marks or what results you've achieved at university, 98% have a job when they finish university. Okay? The starting salary is a lot more than I started on as an engineer in those days. Okay, so Engineers Without Borders, we are working to try and solve the problems outside of Norway, around the world. But we're working against forces which drag skilled, engaged people in another direction. Fortunately, and I found all of this information, it was a survey done last year by one of our partners who is Tekner. Tekner is one of the largest engineering unions in Norway. That 34% of people become engineers because they want to make a difference in the world. So thankfully, I have 1/3 of the engineering students and the population that are coming out of engineering degrees who are actually doing it because they want to make a change in the world. So even though they've all got a job and they've all got high salaries and it's very lucrative and very attractive to go into the oil and gas sector, we've still got quite a lot of people to work with. So I'm running out of time, so I'd just like to summarize. For me, and this is my own personal opinion, from the experience I have, the countries I've worked in, what I've seen, is that without changing the way engineers see themselves and see their role in society, there's no way we're going to be able to solve all of the major problems that we have that we're facing globally today. So if we can be this organisation that takes this 34 people, makes them socially aware, makes them more aware of how they can use their skills for the better, then we're doing our job. If half of those 34 people end up in the oil and gas sector, then for me that's fine as well. Because a lot of those people, at one point or another, will be in a leadership position or a management position in these organisations. And then I'm hoping there that we'll be able to make a change as well. But if we can do what we can to build that next generation for organisations like UNOPS, for organisations like the Red Cross, for NGOs like CARE and Norwegian Church Aid that I've worked for, then that's also our goal. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you again to UNOPS for inviting us here. Because we're in Denmark, we have a cooperation with Engineers Without Borders Denmark as well. So that's our web address, iug.no. If you'd like to find out more about Engineers Without Borders Denmark, it's not that big a difference, it's iug.dk. And they've got lots of fantastic projects and initiatives going on here as well. So, okay, so I'd like to thank all of you for being here and everyone out there on the internet for joining. And yeah, I'll look forward to the discussion afterwards. Thank you.